Have you ever been playing good old video games and just got frustrated by the amount of video gameness you must perform? Why not just kick back, relax, fry your brain just a little bit, but overall let the video gaming happen automatically? Welcome to Astronarch. Developed and published by Dale Turner, Astronarch is an Autobattler roguelite where you're tasked with selecting a troop of heroes that will automatically battle their way through progressively harder challenges spread throughout 3 different acts with a final boss at the end. Each hero has a very unique passive and active abilities, and has 3 slots for equipment acquired by clearing encounters. Gameplay happens mostly outside of combat though, as both your team and the enemies have a predefined order in which they target each other based on positioning, and both attacks and abilities fire off automatically. The only influence you can have mid-battle is using potions, which are very powerful but also limited. This isn't to say that the game is easy, boring, or lacks depth in any way, as the sheer amount of heroes and items combinations makes for very diverse strategies that can sometimes take some serious brain power to pull off. Teams will generally need to be balanced around having some combination of damage dealers, tanks and supports, and the hero design is meticulously crafted in such a way that no 2 heroes can replace each other and can easily, out of the box, fulfill at least 2 of the aforementioned roles. Sprinkle some items in though, and you can, with more or less difficulty, make heroes work in pretty much any way you want.
Arch.
You guessed it.
Arch.
It goes in the square hole.
As an example, we can grab our little ice mage friend here. Their passive applies a frost debuff to enemies, and their active damages all enemies and stuns them based on how many frost stacks they have. So, out of the gate, you can focus on the active and make him just spam it constantly in order to keep enemies permanently stunned. This doesn't work on bosses very well as they are resistant to stuns. Or, you can focus on a passive and accumulate frost stacks very quickly and make enemies super slow, which inhibits their combat capabilities. This isn't as effective on regular enemies because stunning them is way better, but makes quick work of bosses as they suffer the same from frost. Now, what if there was an item that consumes frost stacks to deal extra damage? You just turned your control character into a machine gun of death that pops ice like crazy to deal enormous damage to everyone. What if there was an item that requires every type of debuff to be active on enemies in order to unleash an almightily powerful effect? Well, just drop this blue friend in and you just enabled said effect. This level of creativity is present all throughout the game and becomes essentially a required skill in harder difficulties, as you need to respond to whatever random items you get and build around them as efficiently as possible in order to squeeze every bit of value out of every team member. Or just learn a couple of busted item combinations and win easily. But we'll get to that later. And the greatest thing is that you can store unused items and swap them freely at any time, so you can keep strategies in your back pocket to better suit a particular encounter. Some items are better against single enemies, while others better suit larger groups. And that armor that prevents debuffs maybe isn't so needed against enemies that apply none, so you can swap in an extra damage item. It's really good, and it keeps you engaged throughout the entire experience. Enemies follow the exact same rules, so your strategy needs to have particular encounters and enemy combinations in mind. This is especially important when picking a path on the map, as each of the 3 lanes has enemies that encourage certain playstyles and punish others, with the apex of this mindset being the boss at the end. For the first zone, for example, the top lane revolves around punishing heavy ability usage, the middle lane prevents healing and applies damage over time, and the bottom lane heavily debuffs the stats of your party members, such as their HP, their attack, their defense, their speed, everything. For this reason, itemization can vary greatly depending on the boss you'll encounter at the end, and which path you choose along the way. As for longevity, I beat every difficulty but still have some challenges to go through, and this took me around 40 hours. The journey wasn't all great, as the game dips a bit in entertainment value as you progress through the enter beginner level and climb higher and higher in difficulty, until you kinda just memorize which enemies you might face or what items pair well with each other and with each hero without seeing the combination right in front of you. But let me tell you, as you master the systems, it's like machinery coming together to form a result that's much greater than the sum of its parts, and you get a sense of elation as the game just bends to your will, and you are progressively freer to explore more convoluted setups and teams. And when you make it work, oh my god, it feels fantastic. Now, on to the not so great. Visually, the game could essentially be replaced by this, with absolutely no functional difference. Visual feedback comes from everybody just slightly bobbing and scooching around the place, which isn't terribly interesting or meaningful. Character sprites provide some indication of what to expect from a particular hero or enemy, but if you really want to master the systems and climb through the difficulty levels, you'll always end up needing to read through their abilities regardless, so Also, some items are very busted. Or more specifically, some item combinations are very busted. There's this axe, for example, that makes you attack faster with each attack, so you can very quickly max out your attack speed and turn literally every on-hit effect into an auto-win for that run. This directly contrasts with items that require 4 hero setups plus some added rare itemization for frankly a very comparable, if not worse payoff. I find it more fun personally to go for the wacky builds, but anytime I'm struggling to beat a certain difficulty level, I do know there are comparably easy wins waiting if I so desire, and I feel like it should require just a tad more work to make such game-breaking setups. I'm not sure if the game was balanced around players exploiting this or not, but sometimes it feels like it was. Going for honest, solid builds doesn't seem to cut it for the highest difficulty levels, and eventually the game just devolves into you figuring out what next broken thing you can assemble, rather than inching your way into a gruesome victory. Maybe that's the idea, or maybe I'm just bad and rely on freebies to win, who knows. And that's it really. Very easy to pick up, extremely hard to master, ugly as balls and with endless possibilities. If you want to give Astronarch a go, there's links to it in the description. See ya!